I'll open the meeting up. Welcome to the August 12th, 2020 Municipal Building Committee meeting. We have one thing to read first. It's pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Municipal Building Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for you. A reminder that persons who would like to view this meeting while in progress may do so by Westborough TV. Okay, yes, we're all set to go then. Let's see. Have a review of the past meeting minutes.
Yeah, I move that they be approved as printed.
Okay, Dexter made the motion. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Second by Peter. Any comments? Okay, if not, we'll do a roll call vote. Dexter?
Aye.
Jim Stewart? Earl?
I wasn't here, I abstain.
Okay. Peter?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes. Okay, I guess we're up to Peter. Are you there, Pete?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman, committee members.
Good morning.
Okay, want me to take it from here?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. You should be able to see my screen, hopefully. Item 3, project update. We'll go through a series of items here with input from the contractor and the designer for those who are in attendance. Punch list. We did receive an updated punch list from the contractor. You probably saw that in an email. I have it listed here as an attachment if we want to go through it. But I'll go back to the agenda, the report cover sheet. If anybody from 5 Star is on the call, either Matt or Jonathan, if you want to provide an update, that'd be great.
Sure, it's Matt. Good morning, everybody. So with regards to the punch list, and I'll kind of include some of the ADA items on there. We had parking lot milling and repaving was completed on the 11th. They're going to give it a little time with the heat to set up, and they're going to be striping it. I believe the email I saw is early next week. From there, that will be done. With regards to bathroom partitions, I did talk to my vendor last night. She received the keepers and parts in. She sent them over to their installer, who's a subcontractor of theirs. Once they have them in their hands, they're going to give me a call to schedule to come in and take care of those. And I'll update Jim and Peter as I know when that's going to happen. They were sent out UPS yesterday, so I'm assuming they should be at the installer's office towards the end of this week, and then I'll receive a phone call. Other items on there, I'm on a different site right now and can't pull up my list, but for the most part, our general punch list items are completed. I know I have a key cabinet that still has to be organized and labeled. Might be a couple other small items. I'll have to go through my list. But we're in decent shape with the with that side. I also have to go through with the HVAC contractor because they owned a few items on that list and you know, verify if those have been completed. I haven't done that yet. We have reached out to them to ask their update.
Matt, I have the list on the screen if that's helpful. If not, we can keep going.
Yeah, I'm looking on my, you're on my phone right now, and even with a magnifying glass, I don't think I can see it.
Yeah, that's quite small, Peter. We really can't read that.
All right, let me zoom in. Not sure what. Say when.
Oh. Well, it zooms in, but then We can't read the whole thing, so I suppose it's gonna be what it is.
That one's a lot better.
Yeah,
Another item on that list, I did have L&L. They had done a first round of repairs per the ADA AAB list. Those were accepted by the building commissioner, but there were two other items that they had that were on the list that the design team had put a sketch out or an ASI out to be remediated. The contractor did go to site, I believe, last Tuesday or Wednesday, took measurements and field, some field documentation so that they can make the pieces that need to be added on. And again, I'll update you as we know when it's going to be installed, because there is some welding and grinding. So they'll, you guys will want a little heads up so that we don't cause any issues with people going into the building.
Is that at the front door or the back door, Matt?
It's at the front door, the front police entrance.
Okay. Very good. Okay. Anything further to add, Matt, on the punch list, or any questions from committee members on the punch list?
This is Al. I have a question for Matt. You were going to contact Chief Laurie after the last meeting about the shower downstairs, I believe.
Yeah, I did talk to him. He said, yeah, he was sore, but he was good. But I did contact him right after our meeting to see his well-being.
Okay, and that's being rectified, I take it?
Not by us. It's not in our contract.
If not by you, then who would be taking care of it?
What's wrong with it, Al?
The water comes out of the shower onto the floor, and we did have one slip and fall down there.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Oh, Peter, do you have any answer for that?
Sure. I have not necessarily a full answer, but I have a response. Apparently, the water is, when the showers are in use, showers are draining out of the shower cabin area into the drying area and then into the floor area of the locker room. There is no threshold between the shower area and the drying area, so the water has a tendency to drain out of the shower cabin area. There is nothing shown on the document that shows that the contractor to install anything. There have been discussions regarding the installation of a collapsible threshold that can go in and be installed. At this point, it's not shown by the contractor. If it's to be installed, it would be either A, a request for a change order, or B, the owner can do it on its own.
May I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Peter?
Yeah.
The question I have is if the floor pitches, is it the floor pitching wrong, or is it the volume of water that goes beyond the edge of the shower?
So Pete, I can help with that. So our main issue is in the handicap accessible shower in the men's locker room. And what it is the showers are all built with a flat ADA compliant floor. And so a lot of that water ends up rolling out of the shower. Now there is a floor drain right next to the shower that was placed based on where the steel column or steel beams underneath that floor are. I mean, it's pretty close, within probably 2 feet or so of the shower itself. But what happens is the water coming out is traveling on grout lines and rolls out of that area, and that's what creates the issue. I had pulled up on Amazon. You can buy them, little collapsible thresholds that can be installed right to the floor that would still maintain the ADA compliance, but they will keep the water in said shower. So that's the long and short of it.
Okay, I know what that that threshold is. We've used them before. But my question is, if the shower allows water to roll out of the shower, is that the floor pitched wrong or not pitched, or is it fairly flat? I mean, because if the floor is somewhat pitched out and the water rolls out into the outside of the shower area, putting the threshold in is going to create a puddle. And if a puddle doesn't drain because it doesn't go to the drain at that point, are we going to have quite a buildup of shower gunk?
Well, the shower floors are flat. And if you were to look at the drain sits maybe 30 seconds of an inch, or almost flush with that shower floor. But as you come out of the shower, you do have some pitch going to the floor drain, albeit it's not a severe pitch by any means. But what happens is if the water hits the, outside wall of the shower itself or the inside wall, some of that water is not going to hit the center floor drain that's right outside the shower, if you're following me. So some of that water that hits that outside wall rolls right to the outside, and it's already too far to the left or right of the floor drain and might roll out a little bit.
Peter, I've been over there and seen the situation. I think having a threshold there will trap the water because, when the shower's running, the water's continuously just running out. And Matt's right. It goes right around the floor drain. It doesn't go into the floor drain that's outside of the shower. There is one inside the shower too. And having a threshold there would allow water to pool up in there and be taken by that drain. Is it going to get it all? No, but I think it'll get most of it. And if you don't step on it to collapse it, the water at least will be inside the shower. Now, whether it's all going to go down the drain or not, that would be yet to be seen. But the situation that's happening over there now is worse because the water just leaves there, and it's not just the men's locker room; it's the women's locker room too. Although it's not as bad, but it does the same thing. And then the water basically follows the tile grout. Some of it gets caught by the second floor drain, but most of it ends up in the toilet stall and forms a big puddle over there. And that's where it sits. And there's a squeegee that's been left in there so that the officers can squeegee the floor after showers to get the water into the floor drains, but pretty much the water just runs right around them.
Nice design, very good work.
So in the plans that are drawn for this, there was no plans to call out the shower to be pitched at a greater pitch to grab this water? I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking.
I don't know that answer either, Peter.
Well, we've built a few showers in our career, and we always pitch them, which I assume these showers are pitched to the drain. Yes, on a handicap accessible shower, water will find its way out. That's pretty common, but not a flood. And if it does get out and it doesn't go into the floor drain, then something's not right there, I would assume. These collapsible thresholds, all it is like contact cement, or at least the ones we're familiar with, that glue down to the floor at the edge of the shower or outside the edge of the shower so water doesn't get beyond there. But that's usually from the splash when someone's in the shower and the water splashes all over the place. It could splash out, but I'm assuming we either have shower doors or curtains of some sort to grab most of the splash and drop it back down onto the floor, in which case it should pitch back into the floor drain. So I'm just surprised that we're having I mean, I know in the last meeting we did talk about this, but I'm just surprised we're having a problem with something to me that shouldn't be having to be squeegeed every time somebody takes a shower. And it certainly shouldn't roll out and miss the drains and roll into the toilet area. So I don't have any answers for that. I just kind of concerned or disappointed in that.
Okay. Jim, I have another question. sewerage coming out of both the men's and women's locker room. Has that problem been rectified with the flow so we don't get the backup like we had?
We are still waiting on a response from, it was sent to the design team who forwarded it on to BVH, and we're still waiting on a response. We haven't heard anything else.
So we're still having the same problem we had before?
Well, we had the Rooter man came and snaked all the lines, and so the water's not backing up presently, right now, but it will happen again as time goes on and things build up. I mean, we were in the building 9 months and this happened, so it probably will take a little bit of time. But what's happening is, and this is in the opinion of the Rooter man, because he's seen it before, that the flow from the urinal from the toilets with the flushometers that are there is not enough to keep the solids moving when the toilets are flushed. So when it gets to a 45, say, or a 90 in the line, that things slow down enough to where they start to build up, and over time it will back up again, in his opinion. We did talk to Arugio, who was the plumber, during this event, and they stated to us they had the same thing happen in a school that they had built, and they ended up having to go back and change all the flushometers to allow more water to go. Now, I don't know if there's an adjustment on these and they're just down too low or what, but it seems to be, and I'm sure part of it is the fact the building's not 100% occupied also, so that the flow of water is not as much as it normally would be if everybody was in the building all day long. But it's an ongoing problem, and like I said, we haven't had any response yet from the engineering team.
Peter Collins, are you able to follow up on that?
I have, and we'll follow up again with the design team.
I mean, I see Kevin Lipe is on the call. If maybe he can shed some light on the whole thing, if he has any response. I guess that's a no.
No, he's still on mute.
Oh, okay.
He's having the same problem we all had earlier.
Al, can you unmute him?
I have no access to that.
All right, so where's the master here? There's somebody's got the controls, but you'd be able to unmute him.
Westborough TV, maybe?
Well, who's web conference 2?
What do you need, Dexter?
Webcon, can you unmute Kevin?
No, Kevin has to unmute Kevin.
He's not having any luck doing that.
Well, he could call in. That's the other option.
Okay. So while he's doing that, Al, to Peter Collins, can you also follow up with the design team on this issue with the shower?
We've talked about that in the past. At this point, it's going to be probably down to the owner's team to install a compressible threshold. That seems to be the solution of choice. So we just got to, decide if that's what we're going to do. This conversation with guys showers has been talked about for a while now. We haven't implemented a final decision or resolution, but it certainly seems like, in my thinking and what I've heard, the compressible threshold is probably the first choice.
So you think the installation is proper? Is that what you're saying?
I think the installation is in accordance with the document.
So
What I want to know is, who does the lawsuit go to when some police officer's down there and slips and falls on the floor and breaks his hip because the water's out in the middle of the hallway where it's not supposed to be? I mean, who's gonna represent that and take care of the insurance claim? I mean, let's face it, it's wrong, guys. Never mind pointing the finger at who didn't do it or whatever. Jeez. I just can't get over it.
So
That's my concern too, Rick.
I mean, I would I be able to use funds from the budget, from the project? I mean, to pay for this? I mean, I don't have it budgeted to go and buy all these thresholds and have them installed. So would the committee allow, my department to, because I can handle getting it done. I just don't know how I'm going to pay for it.
What's the
Yeah.
cost, Jim? Do you have any idea?
I don't, Dexter, but I will absolutely have a price by the end of this week on the whole thing to get all those shower stalls to have them in it, because it's not just one, it's happening to all of them.
Hey, Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy, it's Matt. Yeah, I had looked on Amazon way back when. But depending on which one you get, they're between $75 and $100 per piece. Just so you have some idea of where they are.
Okay.
Times how many showers?
6?
Yeah, six.
Well,
6 or
5
8.
or 6?
I have to go over and.
Well, I would, Al, I make a motion that we authorize Jim Stewart to get the necessary fixes done for those showers, and up to an amount of $1,000.
All right, Dexter's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second that, but I'd like to make a comment.
Yes. Okay, Peter is seconded. Go ahead with the comment, Peter.
I think this, in my opinion, these thresholds, even though they sell them for handicap accessibility, they do not stand up to a lot of use. If they're not installed properly, where the tile floor has been cleaned really good and wiped down of any kind of foreign object, they won't seal right. And so, to me, this is a maintenance issue. I realize we have to change light bulbs on occasion, and you got to add toilet paper to the toilet paper holder. But to me, this is a design and installation thing. It should have been designed to and grab everything. And if it's a flat floor, maybe it has to be for municipalities. I don't know. It isn't in residential, and I can only speak to residential. But we always have to pitch them to the drain on all sides, and it's only the splash that kind of gets past these things on a regular shower. So to me, that if it isn't in the design and the installer installed it the way the design called for or didn't call for, then I think we haven't had the right design. I can't imagine that it's going to roll out in a brand new design It's not like it was pre-existing. It's been there. I mean, it's been brand new. So I mean, I have a problem that we just created more of a maintenance thing down the line, and it should have been designed to accept that.
Okay, I think Kevin might be on the, you might have a landline in, but let's get through this first, and then we'll go to Kevin.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments?
Well, Earl's here. I'm concerned about, I agree with Peter 100%. But what about the drain that's out in the hall that doesn't take the water that's too high? What about that? I mean, is that a design flaw or what? I mean, what are you gonna do with that? It's useless.
I mean, I think some of the reason why the water runs around the drain, because it heads that way, is it gets into the grout lines. So once it's in the grout lines,
Well, that drain's gotta be dead level with the floor. I mean,
It pretty well-
I mean, it doesn't take much for it to be a little bit lower, but it needs to be set lower. I mean, it's never gonna work.
And Peter, I just wanted to ask one question on this. I was assuming that the collapsible threshold would actually be installed on the, it's a fiberglass base of the shower stall that's there. Wouldn't it be installed on that rather than the tile floor?
Everything I read, Jim, yeah, it goes on the base of that shower, right on the edge.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be stepping on it that much. You'd step over it.
No, because it's wide, it's
Yeah,
deep.
you'd be stepping over it mostly.
No.
I guess. I don't know.
All right, is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. Peter
Go ahead,
Collins.
go ahead, Peter.
I'm just going to make a thought here. If we have 6 showers, may I suggest we get 2 thresholds per shower location, one for the shower cabin and one for the drying area to prevent it from going out into the common area. And if that's said, using a unit price of $100 per threshold times 6 times 2, that's $1,200 plus installation. My only thought would be increase the number of, not to exceed for Mr. Stewart, of say $2,000 to $2,400 for labor and material.
Is there any other comments in regards to this?
Yeah, all right, I'll amend my motion to, not to exceed $2,000.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
Yes, Peter.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Is this something that you can do, Jim, or who's gonna do this?
I'm gonna take a look at the way it needs to be installed and what materials have to be used, Dexter, and then if it's something I think we can do, then we'll take care of it ourselves, but if it's not, and I need to bring some flooring company or somebody with the proper adhesives to get that down, I'll just make that determination. We'll go from there.
Jim,
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Jim, would it be worth it to do the one that's used quite a bit, which I believe is in the men's locker room, and just to see how that works before we purchase the one for every one of the showers?
I do think that's a good idea. Instead of spending the whole amount of money on something that could potentially not work, I will try it on the one that work that gets the most use first. And if it seems to curb the problem, I'll go ahead and do the rest of them.
Okay. Are there any further discussion?
Well, Peter O'Neill, I just
Yes.
have Peter's suggestion of putting a second one in. I'm not exactly sure the layout down there, but if it's going to be in a floor area that we need to clean sometime, is this going to be a thing that's going to be banged by cleaning equipment all the time? Because I don't think they're going to stand up to that.
Yeah, you're probably right with that, Pete. But I think I think the water is draining outside the shower area, both the shower place and the drying zone into the common area. So you're right. If there is a buffing machine going in and out of that area, damage and dislodge that threshold. I think you go back to the mock-up sample that Jim and the chairman suggested. Do 1 or 2 locations, give it a period of time to see how it looks.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I think we'll just start with the one in the shower stall itself first, and see if that holds enough water in to where it can drain out from there. And then if we're still having an issue, we'll look into another one. I kind of agree with Peter. It's going to definitely, I mean, they're in there mopping floors and cleaning them, and if they're that susceptible to damage, then yeah, they're going to get wrecked. The one out that's in the drying area. But we'll take a look at it and see what we can come up with.
Okay, are there any other comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote on this. Dexter?
Aye.
Jim Stewart?
Aye.
Earl?
Aye.
And Peter?
Yes.
Al Gordon, yes, so it's unanimous. Okay, Kevin, I believe you have called in on the phone if you want to talk.
Well, can I be heard now?
Yes.
Can I be heard? Yeah, I can. Okay. The only thing I can speak to, and I'm not very savvy at this, gentleman, is the design documents. And the design documents clearly indicate there is slope outside and pitch to the drain in all of the locations that are being discussed. I can only speak to the drawings. I hear everyone saying this is a design issue. I have to differ and say that it's an installation issue. The design is solid. The design shows the threshold at the shower pitching to the drains outside the shower, and the interior of the shower is by its own manufacture supposed to drain to the drain in the shower. So I really don't understand. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong spot. I really don't understand why this is happening, with the exception of the slab is not pitched correctly. So I'm going to leave it there.
Well, that's actually the problem.
That's the problem.
But that's not a design issue, gentlemen. That's an installation issue. The design is solid.
No, Kevin, and I can understand that, and I agree with that. And you do have pitch outside the drain area, but the zone of influence may not be wide enough where it's catching it all and it's running out the side. I think, you know, the fact that any water is coming out of the shower is what scares people as well, that it's not staying in. And I have looked at the shower base itself, and I mean, it's pretty darn flat. I don't see any water actually getting caught in those, you know, in those drains. So I think it's kind of a confluence of a couple of issues.
But my thought, just one other thought about the thresholds and a more permanent solution. We are permitted, for accessibility's sake, a half-inch rise in a 1-inch run. And that is a marbling threshold that goes at a bathroom floor finish to an interior finish. And perhaps a threshold across the opening between the shower drying area and the walking area is the solution to keep the water inside the shower, inside the drying area. That was just my thought on it the first time I heard that this was happening. How can we rectify water running out of the shower drying area, but to stop it there at that threshold beneath the second shower curtain, which is for privacy between the corridor and the drying area. So if that's helpful.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome.
Guess back to Peter.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Kevin is finished with what he was saying. I think it's back to you now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We left off on item 3A, sub-Roman numeral 1, punch list. Are there any further questions or thoughts on the punch list? And the parking lot repairs, number 2.
Peter, on the punch list, can you send an email copy of that out, please?
Yes. Yes,
Thank you.
you bet. Next item, the commissioning. There's been some ongoing commissioning back in July. Maybe Matt or Jonathan, if you're on the call, could give an update on the commissioning with respect to responses to the commissioning's corrective action log and next step on scheduling the commissioning agent to return to complete or to work on commissioning items.
So I know that Adam provided a response that I included with the response to your project closeout letter you sent. And he does talk about some of the issues with the RTUs and that they had cleaned off the condenser fans and they were trying to determine if that was part of the issues. And he also goes on to say that he has been pushing Roberto to get the official response to the commissioning report. So we are still waiting on that from AJ Roberto. And then I haven't seen or heard on any upcoming dates, but I'm not sure. That might be something that we can get from the commissioning agent on when they plan on meeting back up on site.
So I don't mean to interrupt, Jonathan, but there's a lot going on over there. And I don't know if you're exactly in the loop of what's happening. So they did clean the coils and it did absolutely nothing. The next day, the unit was out again. We're in a midst of a heat wave right now, and I've had 86-degree temperatures in most of the offices on the second and third floor for several days. They did send a representative back out the other day, and a representative from Adams, and we did get the unit back up and running at 75%. The compressor number 1 is the one that's causing all the issues for the unit to go into a safety lockout. And he basically tried to get the controllers to, he ran a jump wire, get the controller to think that the unit was running so that it wouldn't keep going into lockout and blowing fuses. And it's worked for the last day and a half. It's worked. However, it's only running with three condensers, and it's at best on these hot days like yesterday, it creeped up to 74, 75 in most of the offices on the second and third floor. The building commissioner's office, not his particular office, but the whole suite, did get up to 77 in the afternoon yesterday. One could say that it was better than the 86 the day before, but it's still not a good situation. I am very frustrated that we do not have a manufacturer's representative here, because this is obviously it's a manufacturer's issue. And a comment was made to me by the technician the other day that Adams was holding off on getting there because they didn't know if there would be a charge to get somebody out, and they were trying to determine this, if they could fix it on their own. This has been going on long enough. This has been going on for a month and a half now. And, you know, it's totally unsatisfactory. And the fact that we have quite a substantial corrective action log that there is no updates on, I have no, I talked to the commissioning agent yesterday afternoon, and he hasn't heard anything from anyone, from 5 Star, from Adams, from anybody. And I'm very frustrated about this. And there's a lot of people taking notes in light of what's going on over there. And there's a lot of occupants in that building that aren't happy, and it's all getting back to the selectman and town manager. Something needs to get done, and somebody needs to start putting some pressure on Adams before it has to go to the next level with the town, because this is ridiculous.
So Jim, thanks. And yeah, we're not aware of all of that. In our communications with Wes, we get, you know, that they went out there and, oh yeah, we fixed this, we fixed that. And then he gives us a closeout status report with, you know, some items on it, half of which is not what we just talked about. And, you know, I definitely, I think we need to have more conversation now. We have already told them, I mean, they're not getting paid, you know, anything. They have asked, you know, for you know, some of the progress payments off of their, you know, commissioning and training. We're not giving them anything. I'm trying to figure out how much more pressure we can put on them. And maybe I'm asking, you know, Peter or Kevin, as a filed sub-bidder, what other pressure can be put on to get this rectified? Because short of Adams, there's a lot of things in a lot of good places. And unfortunately, you know, right now, the HVAC is what's making this really look like a giant fiery turd right now.
Well, it's Adams, but it's also
which is Adams. That Adams sub is Roberto.
Okay, so I mean, he's probably got 5 pages of corrective action, or 6 pages, and there's been no response from him to the commissioning agent, or to any of us, or to yourself, obviously. And I don't think we're any better off now than we were, you know, when we started doing the commissioning and they went out there the first time. There's still on the commissioning agent's corrective log from November that haven't been addressed. And you know, this is just unsatisfactory, Matt. I mean, I'm at my wit's end about this. You know, I should not have to be going through this day after day after day, and calling up Adam, and they've responded. They come out every time, but they've gone through boxes and boxes of fuses. I have an RTU that keeps blowing fuses every time it goes off, and goes into safety lockout so the thing doesn't blow up. And I'm fed up with it that we don't have somebody, the manufacturer, to take a look at what's going on with this.
Peter Collins.
Understood. So we will dig deeper into it. We'll try to get to the bottom of it. I'm also, I'm gonna try to get a phone call with either Brian or Kevin to get a little bit of assistance. Because again, if they were our sub, I think we'd be able to hold them a little bit more. But being, a filed sub bid, I don't have as much leverage as I'd like with them or their contract. So, I'll update, you guys as I can, and I'll get a call together with Brian and we'll try to see if we can't help this situation along, because I thought we were a lot farther along than this. And, from the one page of closeout status report that I received from Adams on 7/24, it seems like it should be a few more pages long.
Dexter, go ahead.
Yeah, Peter Collins. Can you, or why aren't you, can you put some light under the fire here to get this thing going? You're the one that's our representative and should be dealing with all of this. Jim should be talking to you, and then you should be lighting the fire to get this thing fixed.
I have, Dexter. I've done multiple emails. I've sent letters, and there's no responses.
Well, so what's our backup plan then?
I would rather not talk about that on this phone call.
Okay, understand. Jim, you need to sit down with Peter Collins one-on-one after this meeting and figure out what the options are, and let's get this thing going. This is ridiculous. 86 degrees in this kind of weather in an office space. I wonder the folks don't walk out.
Well, actually, they have been.
Okay. So how can we get business done? We're paying wages to these folks to do a job, and they have to put up with 86 degrees temperature. Peter, this is not acceptable. You got to do something about it. You're our representative, and I would expect you to be right out there in the forefront fighting for this.
Dexter, I want to just say that me and Peter talk just about daily, and he has been putting pressure. He has been writing letters and sending emails and asking why this stuff hasn't been completed, and we're not getting the responses. So I don't want to put this, all on Peter, because he has been. We talk daily.
Okay, but right, but what he doesn't want to talk about at the meeting, I understand totally. So I'm saying, Jim and Peter, get together and follow the course that you've got in your mind, Peter. I read you loud and clear as to what your thoughts are, I think, and we need to do that. We need to get so that Matt's off the hook, because it's not Matt, it's the contractors, the subcontractors that we need to light a fire under. And if it means doing what you're thinking about doing, Peter, then by damn, let's do it.
Dexter, the town of Westborough has a contract with 5-Star, period. 5-Star has a contract with Adams Plumbing and Heating and all other disciplines, period. I don't represent the town through Adams. Why don't we ask the questions to 5-Star? Why have they not responded to any of the commissioning agents' reports? November 4th, July 22nd, July 31st. Let's start with that.
Fine.
There's been nothing in writing in response to those reports, except an email.
Then let's do it then. Let's just get it off of square one.
Let's ask the contractor right now.
All right. Matt,
Why have they not responded to those commissioning reports, corrective actions? I've asked this before, Dexter, multiple times. And what do we get? What was Jonathan Ennis's response? Somebody from Adams wrote an email. That's the response to the corrective action log that's 3 pages deep. That goes back to November. And we're going to accept that?
We shouldn't be accepting it. That's what I'm saying. If you think that's not acceptable, then go to the next step.
I have, Dexter. And I want me to go further?
Yes.
I will go further.
That's what Jim's asking for.
Jim is asking for me to go further?
That's what I heard. He's frustrated with the whole thing, and people is having to put up with 86 degrees temperature in an office that's unconscionable. That it absolutely shouldn't happen in a brand new building. Yes, if we need to make a motion to do that, Al, then I'm ready to make the motion. But yes, we need to move forward. We need to get this thing done.
Can Matt or Jonathan respond to this, please?
I don't honestly know what the next step is. And again, we're giving, we're trying to give you guys what we're getting from the final sub bidder. I've given them the commissioning report numerous times. I actually sat with them, in June of last year because they still hadn't addressed it. And I actually went through each item and went through it with them so that they could sit down and submit it back to me, which somehow never got done. So it's not for 5 stars lack of trying. And yeah, their contract is through us, but they were hired before we were anyway. So that's why I asked if there was a little bit of help on that way. I'm not sure what the next step, threat is supposed to mean. But, a lot of this, I think also, looking back in hindsight, which we can all do now because we're a year removed, this commissioning agent was supposed to have been on board having weekly meetings long before finish. And maybe with any luck, we could have worked some of this stuff out beforehand and not be dealing with it 8 months later. And we brought him on in June, 3 months before turning the building over. Looking at the specifications, the contract calls for them to have had these weekly commissioning reports. They were supposed to submit a checklist that was supposed to have been filled out by the contractors as they were going through their completion with, middling inspections and walkthroughs done by the commissioning agent as things were getting to certain stages. So, this is, I don't know if we're recording all this, but it's a shit show right now. But we're trying to get through it just like you guys are. We don't have the time to just keep beating these same issues over the head, and I saw Peter's email and looking for more information as we're trying to get him more information. We're not trying to hide from the emails. John does respond to them and will respond to them in a different fashion. I saw your note that it seemed rather informal and apologize for that. But we're trying to push it through because again, we have very small dollars sitting in here, and every week our office is asking us why we're still dealing with Westborough, and we don't have a great answer for them except that our subs aren't finished yet.
May I ask or make a comment? Peter O'Neill.
Go ahead, Pete.
As I was reading through that list the other night, I'm in the construction business on a much smaller scale, but we take responsibility for people who come into our jobs and work. And normally I do have control of all the subs. And if they don't finish something, I don't pay them. So part of my thought here is, have these subs paid for these rooftop units? I mean, that is a shit show. I'm telling you, I kept reading these things. This doesn't work. Normally you'd turn a faucet or a switch or something and test it before you put your tools in the thing and leave. I was really frustrated because that's not how we work. And I don't think 5-star works that way, but these people that came in and did that, if the fuse is missing and the thing won't turn on, I think you'd find that out as soon as you threw the switch on. But maybe I don't know how these things work.
Peter, I believe they basically are owed retainage, some training, and some attic stock. So it's a fairly small dollar amount. Everything else had been approved by the design and owners way back then, and so it's they're putting us kind of, they might be putting us on the back burner. We don't know. Again, with this one-page answer that I'm seeing here, it doesn't seem like I'm on the front burner, and I'd like to be on the front burner because again, I just closed out 2 UMass jobs. I'm working over here in Sherborne, and this is an hour of my Wednesday that I should be watching, blacktop going down outside, and we're still fighting over the same things we've been fighting over for a month.
A month? You kidding?
At least, I know, Dexter.
All I'm saying is that these guys do a job and it's substandard day one. It wasn't like some part failed. Now parts may be failing now, but I'd sure as hell have a customer on my ass if their air conditioning unit didn't work and it's the middle of summer and it's 90-degree days and it sucks. And we have to put up with well, we called them and they said they'd send a guy, and then the guy doesn't show up, and then he has the wrong parts, and then he's got to schedule a new day, and then he got called out on an emergency. This is an emergency to me. This stuff should have been working, and I blame the subcontractor, I do. But eventually, unfortunately, Matt, it's going to come back onto you if they're people that are your subs. If they're not, then I don't know where we go with that. But I don't disagree with Dexter. I think maybe we got to go to some next step somewhere, somehow.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable. A building that you could cook a meal in, for crying out loud. You can't control the temperature in the wintertime. And one of the things, that the units just run and run and run. I know Jim mentioned something like that. And
Yeah. So
that costs money to run these things. So we're paying, all of a sudden a building that's supposed to be more energy efficient than it was. And these units are supposed to be, I assume top of the line, and they don't work for shit. I'm just a little frustrated with that. I couldn't finish reading the report. I was pissed. I just shut it off.
We have, I mean, I can't even explain to you the issue. I mean, so we have temperatures on the second and third floor that people can't work under. Then you go down to the first floor and basement, and it's lucky if we can get to get above 64 degrees. I mean, they're wearing jackets down there because it's so cold on the first floor and basement. Now, I talked to the commissioning agent about this, and this is an engineering problem because they're calling for the duct temperature, the air in the ducts to remain at 58 degrees. And they also calling for a minimum of 300 CFMs in the smaller offices and up to 900 in the bigger places to be a constant, that's the low as it goes. And what it's doing is it's overcooling the areas. Now, because the BMS system isn't working properly, I can't go in and make adjustments to try to help that situation out. And so this is just one big vicious circle that has been going on for quite a while, and I can't get any response from anybody. There's definitely a manufacturer's issue on the roof. 3 weeks ago, I was told by Adams Plumbing that they made a call to the manufacturer, and the gentleman that was going to come out was on vacation, and they would try to get us somebody else to come out. Well, that was 3 weeks ago. And now we just went through another round of blown fuses a couple of days ago, and the unit was shut down for a day and a half, and people left the building and went home, rightfully so. And when they sent the technician out, he agrees the manufacturer's rep needs to be there. That stock unit was also sent out from York, sent out to, and I can't remember the name of the company that tuned it up and put variable speed drives in. And I think that's where the issues are coming from. There's a disconnect between the two units, and there's something electrical that's going on. And we need somebody out here from the manufacturer. And I can't state it's not going to get fixed until that happens. Every time they come out from Adams, they're just putting a Band-Aid on it, and we get a couple of days out of it, and then it starts all over again.
So Jim, after we finish here, I'm gonna work on this with John. I would like to get a conference call, if it makes sense, with yourself, Peter, me, Scott from NV5, and John, and hopefully Tony and Wes from Adams and AJ Roberto, and get some sort of resolve on this. Is anybody opposed to that?
I think it's a great idea. Let's get it done and done quickly.
Matt, can I ask that they respond to the corrective action logs?
Yeah, we will request that again. I know John sent out something Wednesday or Thursday of last week asking them to respond to it, and I'll make the phone call today.
There's 3 logs out there from November, July, and July, and not a single response.
Understood.
Okay, you gonna move on, Peter?
We beat that one to death.
Well, I'm still irritated about it.
It's unconscionable that it's taking this long. I just don't understand it. And why haven't we put more fire in this to get it fixed? I just don't understand it.
I don't know if there's a way to rate the companies that put that stuff in. Or
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. There is, and that's after the fact, but unfortunately.
We're getting pretty close to after the fact.
Sorry, Al.
Yeah, go ahead, Peter.
All right.
Next item, owner training.
Yes. So, 3 revised agendas have been working on reviews, all of them. Only outstanding agenda is the one from Energy Electric, and they had a switch in hands from the PM that was on the project, so slowed them down a little bit, but all the information has been given to the new contact. Working on it as of early last week, so.
So I received, Jonathan, I received yesterday afternoon from Scott, late in the afternoon. He did review the agenda. There are some corrections that are going to have to be made. I'll forward that off to you after this meeting.
Okay.
There's some stuff that wasn't addressed that should be addressed, and I have his response, and I'll send it to you right after this meeting.
All right, thank you.
Any time when it's going to take place?
So once we have the agendas approved, then we can discuss dates.
Why is that? Why can't we get date scheduled and get the agenda in place concurrently?
Because
We didn't
based
have
on
a-
conversation with Jim, Peter, we wanted approved agendas before we schedule anything, correct, Jim?
Yes, that's what I didn't want to set up a date and then get the agenda and it's not following the specifications and we're going around and around in a circle. So I wanted to see what the agendas were. Then our last meeting 2 weeks ago, it was brought up that the commission and agent needed to review that. I looked into it and you're right, I sent it off to them. He got back to me yesterday afternoon. So,
And we'll kick it off and hopefully there are minor, revisions that need to be made and then we'll schedule right after that, Jim.
sure. And, one thing I will say is I have received absolutely zero from Energy. We have zero as far as attic stock. We have zero as far as training. We have zero as far as anything. They've been non-existent.
Yeah, and part of that is Mike Barabee left the company and that paperwork was handed to nobody. So we were chasing ghosts for about 3 weeks. And then finally, some guy, I think his name is Tim or Tom, got back to us, said he has all of the stuff from John. He's working on it as of, like John said, I think Monday or Tuesday of last week. So we should be seeing that very shortly. He knows what he needs for attic stock. We gave him his list for attic stock to try to help so that he doesn't have to try to search for everything.
Has any training been done? Any owner training been completed?
The fire protection. And we have had one session of each, the HVAC, plumbing, and controls, but they weren't fully accepted, which is why the revised agendas right now.
Jim, do you agree that fire protection is completed?
I do agree fire protection is completed. There's very little with fire protection that myself or my crew can do. You have to have a license to work on any of that. So basically we did, we know where all the shutoffs are. We know what to do in case of an emergency. And that's really about it. Besides that, I need to call sprinkler company to come in and take care of everything. So as far as their training goes, there wasn't a lot to go over, and I accept the way it is because I can't touch any of that stuff anyway.
Okay, with respect to the other trades, do we know how many hours are required by each trade?
They were listed in the, Ed actually sent me over your OPM training guide or your tracking log, and on there it is all listed. And I did verify them inside the specifications. So we are going by that, and that's.
And they are part of the agendas.
So, basically right now, the agenda, and this is something I want to mention that came in, it was quite extensive. It was very long. And, like with Roberto, they owe us 40 hours of BMS training. We've had an hour and 15 minutes worth. And, his agenda, does he plan on doing that all in one day? I mean, that's an awful lot of material to try to get through in one day.
Well, again, Jim, that's why we have the commissioning agent now, and the commissioning agent will kind of run that, and they will not go too fast where they're going to try to blast through everything in one day. They know how many hours that they're supposed to complete per specification. And, Scott is there to make sure that you guys get the information that you need as part of these trainings.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to get at is that the agenda that they're saying is, okay, so I'm just going to use Roberto. What he sent, is that going to take the other 39 hours to do that agenda? And if it is, I want to know when we schedule the meeting, what part of that agenda are we going through? Because if that's the agenda for all the training, I mean, how is that broke down into hours? You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's an awful lot of agenda is that the only agenda I'm getting? And I have to pick and choose the way that's going to be? I mean, how is that?
No, again, it's out of your hands, and that's why Scott is there. They own, if they decide, or if you decide, or Scott decides that you've beaten one particular subject that they may own 4 hours for, but in an hour and a half, you beat it literally to death, then Scott will, confirm with you guys, hey, I think we're good here. You're going to have this, I think we can move on from here.
Matt, I didn't see where the commissioning agent was required to be at the training.
It is in the front end of the general conditions that I saw, and he even takes the sign-in sheets, and he's supposed to be looking at all the O&Ms and having a copy of O&Ms, ready to roll at each demonstration, according to the specifications.
Could you forward that to me? Because I didn't, maybe I just missed it. I didn't see that in the specifications. And I talked to him about his contract with the town, and it did state training in it, but it was more of a review of agendas and that type of stuff rather than actually being at the training. So I just like to see where that is, because I haven't been able to find that.
Yeah, I have it all printed out. I'll go back when I can sit down on my laptop. I'll go back. I can pull out subsections and send them over to you.
Okay, good enough.
Anything else on training? Closeout documents?
Yes, so the last remaining one, besides the liens that will come from our accounting when the payments are settled, is the site survey. And now that the revision for the parking space has been done, I've scheduled them to come out next week. I believe they're going to come on Wednesday. I just have to confirm with them later this afternoon. Once that's complete.
Jim, are you in agreement? You've received all the documents?
The only thing I am still lacking was the architectural. You gave me a thumb drive, Jonathan, and when I put it in to use it the other day, I only had 2 pages of documents on it. And I had sent that off to you on an email back a while ago, and you were going to drop one off to me, but I haven't seen that.
Okay, and I did. I'll actually re-forward the email, but there was that Friday that we didn't connect, and I did leave the document for the O&M signature, as well as the additional thumb drives in Fred's office.
Okay, so I need to go hunt down Fred to get this?
I assumed that you guys were going to be in contact because the form I left with him needed to be signed by. That was initially going to Fred. I saw in the email that I sent you. This wasn't unplanned. I did say that I had showed up around lunchtime. I brought the USBs as well as the O&M transmittal, and that it was left in Fred's office.
Yes, I did speak with Fred. He said that he received his, because his was totally blank, his architectural thumb drive, but he didn't state he had one for me. So he's on vacation, so I'll just have to wait till he comes back and see if he's got it.
That's the electronic version. What about the paper version?
The paper version, I believe we have that now. We do have that. It's in my office.
Everything but site survey?
Yes.
Okay. How about one thing I didn't have listed was maintenance stock.
Yep. So So I've been updating the maintenance stock list, and I've actually received Rougeau's owed material as far as what they're going to be giving during the training. And I will be updating Energy Electrics as soon as I hear back from them. And I'm working with Spiros to sort out what he's going to do with the paint, because I do agree with Jim that what was left for paint is not acceptable, and I'm waiting to hear back. If we need to, we will purchase the gallons ourselves. And
listen, I'm not going to get in, beat this horse right now through this meeting, but I have, your response, your attic stock inventory dated 7/21. And I'll be honest with you, Jonathan, I don't agree with what you have here. I'd like you to show me where, you say I have over 600 screws, or where are they? Because I don't know where they are. I see ceramic tile grout. It says I get 6 boxes. There's 3% of each type, and you have 6 boxes. Yes, that it's fulfilled, and the inventory has been verified. Well, there's more than one color of grout. So, what does that 6 boxes represent, and how do I know that that's 6 boxes is 3% of what I'm owed? I'm just looking at your Division 9 finishes here. You have 3% of each color, pattern, size, and grout. How do those numbers represent the 3%? You're telling me that that's what I'm owed. That's the 3%, and if it is, you're saying that I have it. Well, where is it?
so, with the exception of maybe 5 or 6 items up top, everything else that was on that list was verified by Peter and Matt and signed off.
That's not true. That's not true.
I'm not even going to. I'm not going to get into this argument at this open meeting again with you, because that's not true. So, well, I'm just going to move. I think we just move this on, and Jonathan, we'll speak about this later.
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. FF&E. So committee members, Jim and I spoke with Red Thread. Red Thread has been out to the site and finalized the punch list that they had ongoing. Jim has verified it's acceptable. Jim and I also had a discussion with Red Thread on a couple of open items regarding some claims that they had. You may recall there was some additional power cables for the tables in the Great Hall. That was a change order. An invoice came through on that one for $642, which you can see here. And then there was another change order of activities that Red Thread had ongoing that they had done, along with some disputed work with respect to additional labor cost and some additional time to double handle certain items of furniture throughout the course of the project. At one point, the invoice was $11,000, and then we talked it through and we made some adjustments. It was down to the $9,000+ range. We ended up talking it through with respect to repairs to the floor tile, or the floor, I should say, in the first floor kitchenette, where there's going to have to be some repairs done. We took that into account. We ended up settling that all parties agreed for a final value of $7,000 to close out Red Thread. And you may have seen an invoice this morning with a summary on that cover letter. So in response to the FF&E, all the FF&E work has been completed, including the punch list. All invoices have been submitted. And there are 2 invoices that are shown here under item 6. One for $642.72 for added power cables. Then the next one for $7,000 to handle all other miscellaneous change orders and disputed items as a settlement.
Okay, Peter, with the amount that you've been able to talk them down, is that enough for us? We're going to have to pay, obviously, somebody else to come in to fix the damage.
Yes, we feel there's enough money for the facilities department to make the repairs to the floor in the first floor break room. based on the negotiated credit received from Red Thread.
And Jim has the wherewithal to be able to fix that, including materials?
So I do have some attic stock left that we could use for that, Dexter. If not, we'd have to purchase it, but looking at the square footage that was left there, I believe that the arrangement we made with Red Thread was fair to both the town and to Red Thread, and everybody's parting ways happy. So I think we'll be fine.
All right, so then I'll make a motion that we approve the two invoices listed for Red Thread. One invoice number 20674, an amount of $642.72. And the other invoice 20688 in the amount of $7,000.
Okay, Dexter's made a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, second by Jim. Any comments or questions? I do have one question. Does this pay everything to Red Thread that we owe them?
Yes, this will conclude, if these two invoices are approved, Red Thread is complete.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I just want to make a comment. Peter O'Neill. I was reading through the email this morning and saw the Red Thread, and I guess I lost track of this, but they sent a truck out and we weren't ready to accept it because of the elevator, and they had to take this back to their warehouse and unload it, and they charged us for that.
They claim to, yes.
I think that's the scoop, Peter. But we did have problems with the elevator. Remember, we shut down.
I know.
We had to
made
pay.
that guy's life easy.
Yeah.
But I saw then underneath that, I can't pull it up. I'm not smart enough to go from screen to screen here, but there was another charge. It was number 2, not on this invoice thing, but on their paperwork. And they charged us for that twice, 2 more times. And it said we weren't ready, but I thought they did deliver stuff into the areas, into an area that wasn't the finished area, but they charged us twice for that. Or they charged 2 more times for that, I should say. I was just curious, I'm losing track here as well as losing my mind.
Okay, any other comments? We'll do a roll call vote. Dexter?
Aye.
Jim Stewart?
Aye.
Earl?
Aye.
Peter O'Neill?
I guess so.
Al Gordon, yes, so it's unanimous. Okay, back to you, Peter.
Okay, last item on item 3, the ADA, AAB items. There's been a variety of people on vacation over the last couple of weeks. When Fred returns, we'll schedule something where we can all be aligned to have further discussion between the designer, the OPM, the contractor, the building commissioner, to talk through some of these items with respect to items that have been corrected by the contractor's punch list activities. Further discussions regarding any accepted tolerances, and then, of course, finalizing what the variance would look like and to what level that it will be submitted to the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board. So that conversation and that discussion will take place, I'm certain, within the next 7 to 10 days. If there's no questions, I'll move on to item 4, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, go ahead, Pete.
The next item was just a change order log. Where'd it go? Excuse me. Construction change order log, which no real change since we last met a couple of times. Those are the 2 items just to share with the committee if you can see it. Change orders to date. And then there's that one claim that still remains out there that is, I would say, has not been responded to. So I'm just keeping it as a listed item until it's determined to be 100% closed.
Are you speaking about the extended general conditions?
Sure.
Oh, so that is a denied one. We did get the email that just said that, we're unable to request any sort of additional money for extended time due to whether it be the subs, the OPM, or anybody that we are completely unable to request. So that's what we were informed when we got the email.
Is there a response to that?
It was to the owner here, and it was just letting us know that essentially we could not claim any additional money. So that was it. I don't know if he responded back, but there was no course of action to be taken.
So are you saying it's closed?
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay, so for the record, it sounds like, and I'll follow up, Five Star has withdrawn their letter for request of extended general conditions.
We've not withdrawn it. It was just told that it was being denied because we could not claim extra money for extended time.
So it remains open.
Open on their list, but closed on ours, Peter.
Okay, I will make the budget reflect that.
Peter, on everything that you've got here and your regular report, the budget report, you didn't send those out this month, did you?
I finished it this morning. I'm going to send it out after
All right.
this call.
Okay, all right.
What you see on the screen, Dexter, and committee members, you'll get in your email right after this meeting.
Okay, I was just trying to follow my emails to see if I could find it, and I don't see it here, so that's why, because it didn't get sent.
That's correct, yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so there's that change order log, and then here was the owner's look-ahead log that you're familiar with, that we've been tracking throughout the last several months. No change since the last meeting. Then we get into the budget itself, which again, you'll see this. And there's multiple pages here. I'll go right to the bottom line because it seems to be where we are. And I can zoom in a little bit. Move this over 1 second. So you can see the last, say, 12, 15 lines. Row 625, then you go down to 627. And then of course, the bottom line, 632, is what is currently being tracked as available uncommitted funds. And that does take into account row 629, including the 54,600. So as we just discussed, I could probably maybe add that back in, which would bump the 227,000 up by 54,000. And then I'm still holding, just for conversation purposes, just as an illustration, below the very bottom last 6 lines, the quiet rooms, the railings, AAB, boiler exhaust, with just to track it with if everything was to take place based on earlier estimates, and based on the numbers recorded above, there's $69,080 potentially left as uncommitted. We all know that's all subject to change. I'm going to add $2,000 back into this budget as an expense for the thresholds not to exceed. And what else? I think that's it for now. So those are the numbers that's currently being tracked at this time.
Can I ask a question, Peter O'Neill?
Certainly.
Wish I could read this stuff, but it's the boiler exhaust 3,600. I thought we determined that we weren't going to do anything, or they rotated some pipe somehow, somewhere. I mean, I didn't know that would still be down here on this list.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond, just what I understand.
Go ahead, Pete.
So yes, Peter O'Neill, that work was never done. There was discussions about changing the direction of the exhaust piping. We never did that. It remains in place over the doors in the areaway. It's been discussed with the building department and the plumbing inspector and the facilities department that it appears not to be, I don't want to use their words, but it appears not to be as severe as once thought. And I believe from that perspective, Westborough has agreed to do nothing, leave it as it is, without making any further modifications. But that has not really been 100% stamped and approved and signed, so to speak. So just for my tracking purposes, I'm continuing to hold it and show it as an illustration.
Okay, Peter. No, I just,
Isn't that going to be waited until winter and we see how we get through the winter with that?
I believe last winter, while yet it was somewhat mild, was still enough of an indicator to those who had a concern that said it was not that grave of a concern that we need to do any further modifications.
Okay.
If I could just speak on that. So I've been dealing with Fred with this. This is something that was on Fred's list. We went down after last winter, and you're right. We both felt that last winter was not, we never had a streak of cold weather that would produce the ice that we thought that would do. So that being said, Fred had decided to let it go and take it off of his list. We spoke about it and what the fix was going to be. And at this point, myself and Fred felt like it was something that we weren't going to try to tackle right now. Now, down the road, if we have a bad winter and it becomes an issue, this might be addressed again at some point, but not through this anyway.
okay, thanks. I thought we had put that one to
Yeah,
bed.
we did.
Okay.
Just taking a nap, Peter, not going to bed totally.
Slumber's over.
All right. Back to you, Peter.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, so again, these are the numbers that are currently being tracked. I can answer any other questions if there's something on this sheet that has a concern. Otherwise, we can move to the next item. So if you don't mind, the next item, let me zoom out, excuse me. Item 5, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
Any other business, open discussion?
Let's get this whole thing put to bed, to take Peter's words.
Okay. I just have a question since I do have somebody here from Chicumsky Humes. Kevin, you're there. Have you heard anything from BVH on our plumbing issues there in the building?
I have to apologize. I have reached out to them on each occasion. So I have 3 requests into our representative from there, Chris Stocks, and I do not get a response. I have emailed him, I have called him, and I have forwarded Brian Humes' request of me to follow up on this, and I just do not get a response.
Okay, because
it's one of those hand-tied things. I don't know where else to go.
Well, where can we light a fire under these guys? I mean, we're having problems getting these guys to come back, whether it's the HVAC or now it's BVH or it's what. Peter Collins, Peter Collins, what's our backup plan here?
If they won't respond to Brian Humes, that's right from the top. That's top going to the top, and yet they're a non-responsive.
I mean, I have
money.
I'm sorry?
No, I don't think.
Oh, I would, design-wise? No, sir. That's all been distributed because, that would be construction administration would have been the part of their contract that would still be outstanding after construction documents went out for bid. But that's even speaking out of my own station. I don't handle financial matters, especially between consultants of the firm.
Kevin, this is Al Gordon. Are you aware of these toilets and stuff? Are they able to be adjusted, or is it something that they've got to be replaced completely?
I would certainly think that adjustment is the the first course. I think Jim bringing up that we don't have full occupancy in the building, and that could be affecting the anticipated design flow. It could be very significant in what the problem is. But I would think that adjustment is possible.
So when I have my training, my next round of training with the plumbers, Arugio, I am going to request that as part of my training that we go and if these are adjustable, and I think they'll go up to 1.2 gallon or 1.1 or something like that. That we max every one of them out, because if you go into any of those bathrooms and you flush a toilet, it's a very short flush. And there's not a lot of it down. Matter of fact, most people multiple flush the things just to get the business down the drain. So I think that I'm going to check with the Rugio on this, but I also would like to have some kind of response from BVH. I mean, they're the engineers, you know. I also, you know, there's going to be something else, Kevin, coming your way as far as the overcooling. I think it's something that can be adjusted, you know, on our end as far as, you know, through our controls guy and everything like that. He can make the adjustments, but he wouldn't do it prior to commissioning because he wanted things to be at spec, that the specs that he received from the engineers, and that's what he set everything at. It can be done through just simple adjustments, but we want to at least make them aware that we're making the adjustments because it's overcooling the building on certain floors. Okay.
I understand, Jim, and I will reach out to BVH via a phone call this afternoon. After this meeting.
Yeah, that's good, Kevin. Yeah, I was going to suggest that either you or Brian, top to top call from Jakunska Humes to BVH and see if we can't get some from the top down direction.
Well, I understand, Dexter, and you can imagine that me sitting in Brian's chair is because Brian is on vacation this week. So I will get him to understand what the issue is here and see if we can't break the logjam. It's as frustrating for me not to get a response back from my construction administration guy over there as it is for you. I just feel missed.
I understand that, Kevin. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Dexter.
Back to you, Peter.
Okay, just still on item 5. If there's anything else, Mr. Chairman, committee members, if not, we did number 6, number 7. Next meeting.
I would suggest, Al, the 2nd of September, which is the first Wednesday in September. That's 3 weeks out. Hopefully we'll have some better news or some more good news on that by that time.
Okay. Let me just check my calendar. Yep, that looks good for me. Is that okay with everybody else?
Fine with me.
Okay, so September 2nd will be our next meeting.
Okay, very good.
I'm glad you got that lined up there, Peter.
Kind of doodling here, you know? Mr. Chairman, committee members, that's pretty much the report and presentation material that I have for this meeting. I can turn it over to anyone else.
The attachments are forthcoming, are they, Peter?
You'll see them within the next 20 minutes once the meeting adjourns.
Okay, with that said.
Everybody enjoy the rest of the summer. I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5 present. Thank you.
All right.